The Improvement Service meeting for August 25th, 2021 is now in session. Roll call, Alder Gerlach.
Here.
Alder Brunette.
Here.
Alder Scannell, the vice chair, is here, and the chair, Alder Weary, is excused, though he may be joining us unless we really get done quick. I'll take a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alder Burnett, seconded by Alder Gerlach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Our agenda is approved. I'll take a motion to approve our minutes from the last meeting.
So
Moved
moved.
it. Second.
Okay, moved by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously, and I will pause to make sure staff is still with us.
We're ready.
We're good. Okay, on to business. Item number 1, consideration with possible action on correcting erosion issues on 1000 block of LeCount Road, referred back to the Improvement and Service Committee from the August 17th, 2021 Common Council meeting. Alder Burnett? Go ahead.
If you don't mind, I have been corresponding with the constituent who had the concern. Unfortunately, he is unable to attend the meeting today. So instead of discussing it, I simply would make a motion to hold. I think what we can do is, if Director Grenier will allow a member of his staff to meet me out at the property with the homeowner, he can kind of explain his perspective regarding the erosion issues. Maybe we can just sit at that level rather than here. So just a motion to hold.
Okay, motion to hold by Alder Brunette,
Second.
second by Alder Gerlach. Any further discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Oh, aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are holding that item.
We are ready to go.
Item number 2, consideration with possible action on how the city of Green Bay can achieve an annual 3% replacement rate of its roads. The action plan would include anticipated increased borrowing requests held at the May 26, 21 Improvement and Service Committee meeting. This is Alder Weary. Does staff have anything they care to add on this, or?
Well, if it's your pleasure, I'd be more than happy to go through the memo that we provided, that's in the packet, and we actually provided that to the committee ahead of the packet even being published, to make sure that you folks had time to review that and formulate or ask any questions that you may have.
Anybody got anybody from the committee? That's all we got here. Doesn't be anybody else. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay. And I'm just wondering, if this is something, as far as an action plan, if we need to almost like put this on hold to see what kind of money we're going to be getting from the feds and how that might affect and where all that might go, and maybe we'll need to borrow less, or maybe, I don't know what. I mean, there's some variables out there that I would certainly want to be taken into account before moving forward on this item. If that makes sense, Alder Grenier? Does that?
Well, I know, and it may just be the terminology that was used, but I don't know necessarily that this is an action plan per se. We don't have any type of authorization or any way to deliver a program of that size at this point in time. So instead, what we did was we put together information that would demonstrate what it would take to increase the amount of infrastructure projects we're doing, specifically resurface reconstruction. So what we did was laid out the criteria or the assumptions that we made in developing the financial analysis, and then we provided you with the results of what our estimation would be to increase up to 2% from the current 1.45, up to 2.5, and up to 3, and then what those financial or fiscal impacts would be. So it's not necessarily an implementation plan. What this is an economic analysis of what it would take from each of the contributing financing sources and what those impacts would be. Our feeling on this is at that point, once the committee has that information, it would be up to the committee to make a recommendation to the council on what the next step would be. That's not really a staff decision. So that's our intent, is to present that information in that context and then seek guidance from the committee and council on what the next steps would be.
Right. So, I don't know, I think probably want to hold this until Alder Weary can at least take a bite at this if he's got the interest to do so.
I would feel more comfortable if Alder Weary had input in the discussion, absolutely.
Yeah.
May I ask why it was held in May? I don't remember. It says it was held in May, but I just don't remember it.
Originally, when we did this, we were painting with a rather broad brush, as it were. So what we wanted to do was take the opportunity to refine some of those numbers, and it took us quite a while to do that.
Okay.
So a motion to hold?
Sure. Move to,
Motion by Alder Gerlach, seconded by Alder Brunette. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that item is also hold. Well, that's 2 hands. Hopefully we're not gonna hold anything else. We're gonna need a 3rd hand.
We're good to go.
On to 3. Consideration with possible action on a request for a 20-year history of road repairs, including alleys, 2001 to 2021, with total expenditure, miles, distance completed, type, reconstruction versus resurface, and to denote if the projects were cooperative with county and or state, held at the August 11th, 2021 in Alder Weary. Again, I don't know.
Well, this was an item that was on the agenda last time, but Alder Weary wanted it. My recollection, my understanding of what Alder Weary said at the last meeting, this item is for consideration side by side with the discussion on item 2, and there's Alder Weary.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I don't necessarily want to say supporting documentation, but it's items to also be taken in consideration.
Right.
That's my recollection of it, at least.
Yep.
So.
You can almost take the 2 items up together.
That would be the chair's pleasure.
Well, good morning.
Hey, thanks for hanging in there. What did I miss?
We're on to INS. So I now get up from the chair, and it is vacated for you to sit in. And we just did item 2, and we're on item 3. So if we could go back to item 2, if someone wants to reconsider their vote. Do you wish to discuss items 2 and 3, Alder Weary?
Boy, oh boy. Let's see here. Bear with me.
Yep.
I'm not getting an agenda up.
It's the roads.
Yeah. Well, what?
I don't know that that Alder Weary is signed in to Civic Clerk yet. We're not showing you on our screen.
well, he's doing that. Do we need to do something now? Because we already voted to hold number 2. Do we need to do something to go back and undo all this?
Reconsider a
Anyone
vote.
who voted in the affirmative to support that action could ask for reconsideration of the item, which would open it back up.
I asked for reconsideration of that item.
That needs a second, doesn't it?
It is a motion, second, and a vote,
Yep,
yes.
yep. Seconded by Alder Brunette. All in favor of reconsidering that vote?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, aye. We are now reconsidering item number 2. And we could take
Evans.
both 2 and 3 together if you'd like, Alder Weary.
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm having a little password issue getting in, so just if you could mark me as present, and we'll just kind of wing it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we can take care of any vote information
Okay.
for you.
Yeah, some reason that's.
Oh, looks like you're in now. You just
Oh,
popped
did it
up
take
on the
it?
screen.
Okay, how about a motion to take item 2 and 3 together?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alder Gerlach to take items 2 and 3 together, seconded by Alder Burnett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're going to take 2 and 3 together, Alder Weary, and you are now the chair, and take it away.
Right, well, thanks. Apologies for the delay. Have an Achilles tendon that apparently is not going to want to cooperate, so.
So your Achilles tendon is your Achilles
It's
heel?
my Achilles tendon, yes, it is. But we walked fast over here. Well, I missed, I guess, the report. How much did you discuss it?
We really didn't discuss it.
Okay. Well, everyone had a chance to look at it and, okay. And Steve, I appreciate it. A lot of good data here and information. My first question, and not in any particular order, would be the federal funding that is going to be coming. Right, does that, I know it applies maybe to the storm sewer and sanitary sewer. Is that correct? Just those two or one of those two or?
My understanding is that there may be applicability for some of the ARPA funds to potentially be used for sanitary, storm, and possibly water. Okay.
Because especially if it could be used for all three, that's a big chunk of the expense, right? I mean, if you're just looking at some of the numbers here, obviously you couldn't maintain it every year, but you could at least bump it up and set a new level.
And I see Brian Powell and General Manager Cork from Green Bay Water Utility are now joined into the meeting as well.
Awesome. Well, also in addition to that question, under water main, a 10% rate increase, is that a 10% rate increase to the water bill?
That would be a great question for Nancy. General Manager Cork provided her information. We just simply incorporated all her numbers directly in.
Yeah, so when we, you're asking about the 10% rate increase?
Right.
Yeah, what we did was calculate what our current rates were, and then we calculated the additional money that needed to be done to increase each of those years or those percentages, and then calculated what that rate increase would be just for that water main work. We would not include any other updates to our operating budget. That's just for the water mains.
Okay, and that would be, I mean, without knowing the roads, I mean, is that just a guesstimate, right? I mean, there might be some roads that need less work than that, or?
What we're calculating, Alderman Randy, is we have a history of about 60% of all of the roads that get done, we put water mains in, and we need to be increasing water mains anyway, so, yeah.
So I know you had mentioned internally or as part of the committee for the Water Commission, you had talked about how to get there. Do you have any kind of preliminary plans or ideas how you wanted to? Or is this kind of a starting point?
What we were trying to do is get you data associated with what you had asked Steve in DPW, that if he was going to increase his program, that we would do that along with him, because it's certainly the most cost-effective way for both of us to get those infrastructures replaced. We have a commitment that we're going to be replacing more infrastructure, and our CIP shows right now about an extra $200,000 every year to increase some of the main replacements right now. We will have to have rate increases for that, so.
Right, okay. And that would be just a one-time increase? And once you got to that level, would it be steady after that? This isn't a yearly increase, it's just to get to that level? The 2% or 2.5% of road work?
That would be correct, yeah.
I guess, committee, do you have any questions for Director Grenier or Director Quirk, or see Brian's here too? Yeah, Alder Scannell? I think he's waving his hand.
Yes, I know in the past when we've talked about getting more roads work and everything, one of the hiccups was the staffing to do that. If we do get some ARPA money or we do get more bonding or something, how would we handle that at the staffing end, Director Greer and Manager Quirk?
Well, I can speak to DPW. The way we've got the cost sheet broken down, project management, construction administration, consultant management, we would have to hire additional staff on a permanent full-time basis to manage those to manage the consultants who are doing the extra design work and do the construction admin and project management once the projects actually went to construction, because this is more than, if we go to 3%, it's more than doubling the current workload. So there's a combination of full-time staff here at DPW to oversee that work, and then the actual design, we would hire that out to consultants. It'd be contracted consultant services. And the way we've accounted for that in this financial analysis is the way that we currently contract for those types of design services. The design service is it's a function of that project. So what we do is we utilize the bonded money to hire the consultant, because then you spread the cost of that consultant over the life of the project. So it's a combination. The actual design would be done by a consultant, that's paid for through bonding, and then one engineer can manage multiple consultants, and one engineer can oversee multiple construction contracts. But we have to hire an engineer, we have to hire another construction manager, we're gonna have to hire several aides and probably one technician to oversee the actual field work, and then the assemblage of plans and letting of the document, or letting of the contracts, and then doing the contract administration with the consultant during construction. So again, those would be fixed costs that would not be bonded for, those would be levy supported costs. So that's why we're showing under any of the options down below. We've got a construction, that's bonded. Project management, that's levy. Design is bonded. And we talk about what the increase is, or what the fiscal impact is. There's a levy increase, but roughly half of that levy increase counts against expenditure restraint and levy limit because it's a direct expense. The other half of the levy impact that's shown there in the fiscal impact, or levy increase shown in the fiscal impact, is debt service, which does not count against. That's the debt service associated with the borrowing for the design and construction. Make sense? Or do you have any further questions?
No, it sounds like we'd be able to get the personnel if we got the money,
Well,
one way or another. I mean, it's not.
If you have the money.
Yeah. It'd be a bit of a headache.
I think General Manager Quirk is gonna be able to back me up on this. The one thing that we are finding exceedingly difficult to do is to hire staff.
Yeah.
They're just they aren't out there. We don't have a lot of people going into the engineering trades, and those who do are going into computer engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. The number of civil engineers out there is it's minuscule compared to when I was in college 30 years ago.
I think when we just hired our last engineer, I think she was the only one who applied. Yeah, so we are not having a lot of people in the engineering field applying for that. So our engineering tech, what did we have, Brian, for that? Do you remember?
Yeah, we had two applicants. And then in both cases, we're lucky because we got very good people, but there just wasn't a lot to pick from, or we kind of lucked out. But yep, there's just not the applicants that we're used to seeing.
So while we don't have the internal capacity, there's still the external to hire out the hired guns. Is that the case, do you feel?
You still have to have people inside the organization who know what your specifications are and to direct the contractor. I've done contracts where, like a big project, I have big transmission mains. You hire a consulting engineer to design it, but you're with them every step of the way. So that it does take additional staff time, maybe not 100. It's not 1 for 1, but you do have additional staff time to direct them and oversee them.
Anything else, Alder Scannell?
Yeah, Nancy, I want to be where you are.
It's in Scotland, so.
Wow. Well, no, I think that was one of the big things I always thought kind of hampered us in the past was, even if we could have came up with the money one way or another, big borrow or steal, there was still a problem of staffing to get the work done. That's all.
Steve or Director Grenier, or well, it wouldn't be you, Nancy, because it's DePere. You don't really deal with them with your water work. How does DePere do it? How do they do the 3 to almost 4% every year? Now I know the tough part was getting there, but they've seemed to have been able to maintain it.
They're also a lot smaller. They're only a quarter of the size we are. So using a similar number of staff, I mean, if we cut our facility size by a quarter and did the same lineal footage, we'd be at 6%. We're at
wouldn't it
145
be a
right
bigger
now.
percentage of our budget? If we shrink who we are and when we still do the same amount of roads, it's going to be a bigger percentage of our budget. So what I'm saying is we're doing a smaller percentage of our budget towards the roads, right? They must be doing a bigger percentage.
That I don't know. I've never asked that question of them.
Yeah, if you simply shrunk us, obviously then all our revenue coming in is going to shrink and we'd have to adjust. But Alder Gerlach?
I was going to say something very facetious. I was going to say, if you could just wait, my third grandson started his civil engineering course at University of Missouri on Monday. Just give him 4 years. He's a good boy.
If he gets out in 4 years, he's a great boy.
Yeah. Maybe we need to advertise for uncivil engineers.
There we go.
Rude, but they get the job done.
Alderman Scannell, I did want to comment that you had said about the ARPA funds, and Steve and I have talked about, if we could get a couple $1 million, we can do more projects together and we can do the water and the sewer and then do the streets with it too. But we can increase while we have the funds available. But then you have to go back to, and in the water utilities case, we pay basically cash for all of our water main work. We don't bond for water mains. We bond for like towers or buildings or things like that. We do not bond for that. We pay cash out of that. We get it out of our capital budget, and that's used from rates because we have to do so many a year. We do not want to bond and put an extra interest cost on that money.
And Steve, and maybe it was miscommunication, but I honestly thought after the wheel had gone up to about 2% of our road work. And maybe that was just miscommunication somewhere along the line, but I honestly thought, and I've used it in my flyers, that allowed us to get to 2% of our road work shooting for 3. And when I read through the documents, we're at 1.4, 1.45. So that was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, when we came forward with the plan for the vehicle registration fees, we gave you a 10-year looking back window. And in that 10-year window, I think the highest year was a 2%. So that number was discussed at committee. But I think somewhere between you and I, we just got our wires crossed. Okay. It wasn't that we were moving up. It was looking back at the previous 10 years, the highest we had been was 2%.
Now, forgive me, I don't have that report right in front of me, but the one you gave us at the last committee meeting that had great data in it, did that have the percentage in it by year also? What percent we did of roads? I
don't know, and that one wouldn't necessarily be a 1-for-1 translation because we gave the report that we provided last meeting, and that's in the packet again this time. That's all in. That's not just city type projects.
Right.
When we were looking at these kind of things, we didn't want to artificially inflate the numbers by trying to include Monroe Avenue or Avelp Avenue, where that was, it was a city project, but it wasn't, if that makes sense. It was federal money that came in. Or, you know, we were paying some of the projects, Velp, Monroe, Velp and Monroe, because they were connecting highways, the pavement portion of that was almost 100% covered by the feds. So a lot of the ancillary stuff, sidewalks, lighting systems, things of that nature, became city funded. Projects like Webster and half of Military, I don't know if you remember that, Alder Weary, when we did Military Avenue. We separated that into two projects, roughly split near Mason Street. And one was a DOT project and one was a city-led project. On the DOT portion of that, that was an 80-20 cost share because it was a local road, not a connecting highway. Same thing on Webster. That was that started off as an 80-20 cost share. So because it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, we didn't necessarily include those numbers in all the analyses. But they are in this report.
I remember it in a roundabout way. Those were some fun discussions, right, Steve?
7 roundabouts, as a matter of fact, I think.
Any other questions from the committee? I guess Director Grenier and Quirk, do you feel increasing what we do is a good goal, and you know, how do you suggest we get there? I mean, I know money, right?
Money is what it is. Yeah. You know, I know a lot of prices right now for materials have been inflated, and they're starting to come down just a little bit. You know, if we can get our contractor prices lower, I don't know how we do that, but they're, you know, we had guys leaving the water utility. We had 3 distribution guys leave us in the last couple months, earning in around the $30 an hour, and they went to $60 an hour in the contractors. So, you know, we're not going to be able to compete with some of that when they want that money. And
I'm in the wrong job.
Pardon?
I'm in the wrong job.
Me too. So we have to look at the balance of life of when we work in our municipal settings. But yeah, we have to make a purposeful thing. We also, you know, between the sewers, like the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer, which go on your water bill, and then our water is all combined to have your water bill. We need to be very mindful as we're increasing that, so that we don't all increase, you know, a high weight. And I will just say, when you talk about De Pere's water bill is probably double to triple what ours are. So
we told them it would be. We told them
it
would be.
I mean, when we were negotiating with Wrightstown, our wholesale rate was at $2.20 per thousand, and Central Brown County was at $4.40 a thousand. So they were double us. And so their water bills are higher. And maybe, I don't know what, I've not, Brian, have you talked with, well, Scott and Steve, I know, are best friends almost, but have you talked with their water department about how much they're replacing water over there?
No, I have not. I'm not sure what percentage of water main they replace.
But going back to Alder Weary's original question, I think both General Manager Quirk and I would be of the same opinion. Yes, that is a goal. That we agree that getting more done would be a good thing. I was very careful when I drafted the memo and put the information together to try to give you facts, and then leave the discussion up to you. That's really where it belongs. I'm trying not to steer the decision in one direction or another. Okay,
Yeah.
you guys are the policymakers, and I want to respect that. Yes, I agree. Doing more is definitely a goal we should all be shooting for. I just want to give you, to the best of my ability, what I really see as the potential fiscal impact, so you're making an educated decision.
2 follow-up questions, and I saw your hand up, Alder Gerlach. Sorry, I'm hogging all the time here. One would be, is it early enough now to look at next year, or are you already kind of planned out for next year? And then 2, what's your realistic guesstimate or goal that you think we could reach? If it's not 2, is it 1.8 or is it, what? And I know the ARP money or whatever that money's going to play a big factor, obviously. But.
Well, and for that, the unfortunate answer is it gets complicated really, really quickly. For the most part, we have submitted what we expect our program to be for next year, but that discussion will occur with the finance department now. That's all part of the initiative for both the 1-year and the 5-year CIP and going with a more holistic 1-year CIP. I think DPW with the Improvement Service Committee, we always have had a pretty detailed and pretty robust discussion relative to an annual program. Parks has been pretty darn good about it as well, but maybe not all departments had that same forward look. So it was kind of catch as catch can with some of the other departments at budget time, and then again when it came time to bond. So with making the plans for a 5-year program and realizing that the first year of that 5-year program is the most accurate of the 5 years, that discussion has shifted away from the individual departments and come under the umbrella of the finance department. Now, I know Director Ellenbecker has been talking about bringing that 5-year CIP and annual CIP discussion earlier in the year. She wants that tied together at the same time as the budget discussions, because the amount of bonding we're doing has a direct impact on the debt service and bond requirement or budget impacts for the following year. So I don't want to say that the ship has sailed for 2022. I will say we turned in a program that is about that 1.45. When we came up with the vehicle registration fee, what we were attempting to do was figure out how much more money that generated, and then that became our new benchmark, that 33,000 lineal feet of road. So that's what, until we're given direction to change that, that's the target we're looking at each year. So 2022's program is targeted at about 33,000, as are the next 4 years that we have in our 5-year plan that we've turned in as well.
Appreciate it. Alder Gillick, did you have
Just have a question for you, Alder Weary, just for some context for me to understand, and I think I've got it figured out now. So items are both from you, and I think that your motivation is to try to get more roads, repaired here, and you think 3% is like kind of a target that you have in mind?
I put that target out there, realistic or not, but I want, sounds like everyone's in agreement that we want to do more. So it's just, how do we get there? When do we start? And that's kind of where we're at right now.
And then one last question. I asked earlier before you got here why we held this in May, and I'm thinking it was to get that 20-year report. Am I right? Is that why we held it? Because you wanted to know your history before we talked about it?
That was part of it, yeah. And some of the reports weren't ready quite yet, and there were vacations, and Steve and I did, let's wait till we can have it all ready at once. And we can present, not do it mishmash.
If you go
I'm
back,
just trying to understand.
If you go back and you look at the data that we presented back in May, that was done largely off of the numbers we had in the capital improvement program. So those were bottom line dollars that included things other than roads. For instance, the pavement numbers had bridges in there. Okay, what we've done here, and that was because we were trying to pull large amounts of information together in a relatively short period of time and give you something to chew on. Okay, so there's, I was very happy with the work Jim had done on that. When we got into this discussion, and I was able to have a little bit more conversation with Alder Weary, what we did is we started parsing some of that out, and we concentrated solely on resurface and reconstruct. So that's why you see the numbers are substantially lower now than what we had presented back in May. And it took a fair amount of work to pull some of that stuff out. But again, we didn't want to bring you numbers that were overinflated, because that makes it look like we're trying to pad the ledger, and we want to give you the best information we can. So we got it down to as accurate as possible for you.
Any other questions from the committee?
Well, I'm wondering if shouldn't we wait and see what ARPA, we're going to be getting with ARPA, what we're going to be able to do with ARPA before we go forward? I mean,
Do we have a timeline on that?
if we don't need to bond.
Do you know, Alder Scannell or Director Grenier Kirk, do we have a timeline on that? Any inkling?
I do not know. I do know that the mayor has held some listening sessions or public forum of some sort to solicit input from the community on where the community would like to see those monies spent. I'm not sure where that sits. It doesn't come through INS, so I'm not as up to speed as, say finance department maybe. I know finance has been working pretty tight with the mayor on those types of issues. So that, I don't want to send you off to somebody else, but I think Director Ellenbecker or the mayor's office would have a better answer for you. I would be guessing.
And I was on the finance committee. I'm sorry, Alderman.
I was just going to say I was on the finance committee meeting, so you about it because you're going to talk about it a lot better than I would.
No, I'm just like, I know that they had a policy in there of how they were going to spend the ARPA money, and I guess I don't know if did they pass it, Alderman?
Well, the policy was not about it wasn't the policy for spending the money. It was where the money would go. They're setting the policy for to make sure that Green Bay is in accord with the government regulations,
right.
And therefore this is how it will work. And the grant person that was hired to do this spoke, and she did a wonderful job, I thought. Talked about exactly how you will apply for funds and how everything will be, how the records will be kept and that sort of thing. And then we did ask if there had been any plans, if anybody was starting to put together ideas for how this money would be spent. And I can't remember who told us that. I think it was Diana Ellenbecker told us that the staff so far had floated the idea enough for $80 million to be spent. And it's $23 million total. So I guess people are thinking about it. But I believe they passed finance and it will come to council next time, if I remember correctly. But it's just policy. It has nothing to do with what money will be allocated where.
Director Quirk and Grenier, assuming, let's say we weren't getting any federal money, what would be a good goal to try and bump up to next year? Minimal 1.5, 1.7, 1.8. But what's something that we could say, hey, you know what, we're going to start walking in that direction. Maybe not running, just kind of, and then if we get the money, hey, that'll help a great deal or do more. I just want to kind of keep it moving instead of file it, because filing always kills things.
I know. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, from a water main perspective, Alderman Weary, the last 2 years, we've been able to do 3.7 miles a year of water main relay. And then coming up in the next 4 years of the 5-year program, we're going to be averaging about 4 miles a year, which is a pretty good bump up. We were at about 2.7 miles a year from 2003 to 2019. And a rule of thumb is we have 440 miles of distribution, and rule of thumb is to do 1% of your system a year. So that'd put us at 4.4 miles. So as you can see, we're getting up to 4 miles a year without any ARPA funds or changing the program. We still need to do roughly half a mile more a year at some point to be a little more in the optimum range. So that would, isn't necessarily a half mile more of streets, because we do about 2/3 of the streets that are selected that we have water main work on. So I guess.
Yeah, and we had a master plan done in 2017 that had us replacing right around that 3 miles of main, because we were replacing all of our lead services. They were balancing the money that was going out to that versus our replacement main. But we've been able to, through Brian and Steve's cooperation, been able to increase our main replacements. And like Brian said, we're shooting for about 4.4. But in the existing master plan for our medium range, which is we're coming up to pretty soon, they want us to get up to about 5 miles of main a year. So we are trying to increase that slowly. A couple 100,000 a year, as I said. We're we're trying not to do a rate increase in 2022. We will probably have one in 2023 to help us get a little bit farther ahead with that.
Thank you, Steve. Because they're doing doing more, can we do more?
Well, I think I've told you in the past, with the existing staff that we've got, we're pressed pretty thin. Other departments are doing more projects than they ever have in the past as well. And all of that funnels through the engineering staff here at DPW. So unfortunately, we can't dedicate all of our efforts towards road and sewer infrastructure projects. I think we have some capacity. We may have to subcontract some of that work out, maybe not all of it, especially if it's a smaller bump. Can we start moving in that direction? Again, from a manpower perspective, we've got some limited capacity to keep going up. I hate to do it, but I'm going to turn around and ask you the same question, okay? And the reason I say that, taking a look at, especially those fiscal impact pieces, if we want to take a real big swing at things and have just a huge rule of thumb, for pavement alone, every 0.1% we go up is a penny on the levy. And that's exclusive of normal budget. So think of the discussion we have every end of October, beginning of November, and we're talking about what the tax rate's going to be and where things are going, and wages went here and fringes went there, and we got to buy this for equipment, and throw all of that out the window just to go up 0.1%. We're going to add a penny to the levy, and that never goes away. That's a permanent hit or permanent increase on the levy. So if you want to go up 0.2%, go from 1.45 to 1.65, maybe 1.7. That's going to be another 2 cents on the levy, and that will never go away. So if you guys make that call, we will do everything in our power to deliver the program that you've asked us to deliver. Okay, you're going to have to make that decision, and whether or not we can either carve that out of somewhere else, or if you guys are going to support increasing the levy to accommodate the work. I mean, unfortunately, that's the real answer.
Thanks, Steve. Alder Scannell?
Yeah, would that be, do you have a position now to fill, or does that need to go through personnel? Do we need to create an opening for you to fill a position to do this work?
Well, if the decision was to go forward at some, increase from 145 to 16, we would attempt to handle that with existing staff and supplement as necessary. But I think, by the time we get up to 1.7 and above, we're looking at adding permanent staff.
And does that then have to go through personnel, or?
Oh, yeah, well, we would have to go to Personnel Committee to amend the table of organization and then get authorization to fill, and we'd have to do a budget amendment to pay for that.
Right. And would that absorb that? Would the levy be paying for that position? Is that part of the reason the levy goes up? Is we need to?
A portion of it, the way the engineers in project development, the aides, the technicians, and I believe the construction manager as well, those are jointly funded, a third by the levy, by the sanitary, and by the storm. And this already takes that into account, okay? So the full cost of those bodies are not being put on the levy. That's what we see with that project management column that's in the tables. We're taking the cost that $729,600 to go up to 3%. That's being split amongst the pavement, the sanitary, and the storm based on their contributing amounts of construction funding. So not all those costs go to the levy. That would also require obtaining additional funding out of the sanitary and storm utilities for our stuff. And then, as General Manager Cork has identified in her numbers, she's anticipating some staffing increases, and I don't know where her breakpoints are. But again, 145, just off the cuff, if I had to guess, we would probably try to push it with existing staff up to, about as high as 1.6, 1.65. Once we start hitting 1.7, we're going to need some additional bodies.
Don't say break when you talk about water, though.
Thank you.
Well, maybe Alderweireld, we should make the push to 1.6 to begin. We can always amend and adjust as we go along, but that certainly gets the ball rolling.
Yeah,
And,
I agree.
we could see what with ARPA and everything else, how things roll out, and I'll make a motion to pursue a goal of be 1.55.
No. We don't want to go that low. That's too low.
1.6.
said one. Yeah, there you go. That sounds good.
1.6, Steve, does that sound? I don't want to break back.
Again, you guys set the goal.
Right.
And we will do everything that we can to hit it.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All right. And
I do have a
when it comes to the budget, if we'll just see what happens then too.
Could you, Alder Scannell, just to piggyback on here with a question,
Sure.
Director Grenier, is it possible to bring that back and to show us what that would mean financially?
To
Because right
take-
now it's
to
at,
take
I think
the-
the lowest was 2%.
To take the existing tables and put a 1.6 in there? Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, it's, okay. Just so we have for next time, so we can then forward that on maybe to finance or the mayor or both or everyone else and say, hey, here's what we want to do.
Yeah, matter of fact, if you're taking an action item, we could take that 1.6 impact sheet and have that as an informational item at the next meeting, because you've already taken an action here.
And that's, obviously, I'd love it to be 3%, but I'll take a baby step. I'm greedy, but I'm not that greedy. And
Understood.
Director Quirk, you disappeared for a minute, and I thought the Loch Ness Monster got you.
No,
really
the sun was coming in my eyes. I couldn't see. I had to take the shade down. So, no, but yeah, we definitely work alongside Steve and do the best we could. And
It's not a great increase, but is that something that you could work with him if we went from that 1.45 to the 1.6? You could work, between the two of you, accomplish
Yep.
that, or Brian, whoever.
we do everything we could to do that. Yes, because we certainly want to be replacing more infrastructure. I'm sick of going to the claims committee. So.
Any other questions from the committee? I mean, is that a good goal, bad goal? Are you comfortable with it? I mean,
I'm comfortable with it right now,
yeah.
for tonight.
And like you said,
going
if
forward,
some-
who the heck knows? We just don't have the crystal ball.
We also have if the federal government passes the infrastructure bill, there may be money coming towards streets and things too, which we don't know yet. And it hasn't passed anything in. So we're kind of up in the air with those things that are going on. And we're both Steve and I, and well, Brian too, we're all keeping in track with what's going on at the federal level and trying to, get into those programs as quick as we can.
And that's greatly appreciated. And I think it's good that we're planning that's not even going to be coming, because the federal wheels grind so slowly. We could get those funds in 2 years, right? I mean, maybe they'll go quicker and we get it in a year and a half, but I think we should plan like we're not going to get it. And then if we do, oh, hey, that makes it a lot easier.
I'm going to go upstairs and get the glasses you gave me, Nancy.
No, they're on your head, Steve. They're on your head.
No,
We got him some rose-colored glasses.
Nancy got me a pair of rose-colored glasses several months back. I'm a little bit of a pessimist by nature. when I remember the ARA funds, which predated ARPA by a decade, but that was the federal government wanted to hit shovel-ready projects. There was $751 million that came to the state of Wisconsin for transportation, solely dedicated to road projects, road and bridges. $751 million. We are the third largest municipality in the state of Wisconsin. The city of Green Bay received $220,000 out of $751 million that came to the state.
Steve,
So
was
when it
that-
comes to federal programs trickling down to the locals, I'm not overly enthused.
I remember my first year or two in council, we got money from the federal government to do the walkway underneath the bridge downtown. Was that
Yeah.
that money?
Oh,
That's the only thing we had ready to go. So we put that tunnel in underneath.
is that tunnel still there?
Yeah.
Or did it get completely filled in? It's still there?
With the fish, the glowing fish?
That's the tunnel that goes underneath the Walnut Street Bridge on the
Great.
east side part of
Art.
City Deck.
Oh, that's the same.
Or Star Bridge. Oh, boy. Yeah, sorry. Any other questions from the committee or any other comments, or should we move this along? And can't imagine we're going to get a whole lot of feedback from the rest of the council, but you never know. Maybe they don't like roads as much.
Yeah, I think there's so many variables here.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how this is really going to play out. But for tonight, I think, you know, let's get the ball rolling, see where we end up. Hopefully we're going backwards.
No. All right, well, we have a motion and a second to direct staff, I guess, to increase the road repair work to 1.6%.
Yeah, what I
Clean
would
it up, make it prettier if you want.
what I would do is I would clarify that for the local street resurfacing reconstruction program. That way
See,
we know exactly where the money's going.
You beautified it for me. That's awesome. Is that okay with you? I'll just, you know,
God, those words were exactly what I had in my mouth. I just, you know, my mouth's a little dry.
Is
Any
that
other
going to be for a 2022 program?
right.
Oh, okay.
I'm
We
in
just
favor.
turned our CIPs in last Friday, so we're going to have to amend those, Brian.
What else were you going to do tomorrow?
I'm going to Madison to testify on some bills at this.
Oh. To give us more road money. All right. Any other questions from the committee? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. All right. Appreciate it, Brian and Nancy. Thanks for.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
thanks.
being included because I think it's important that we collaborate on this stuff. So thank you, Steve.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
A quick side question for either one of you, or Steve. Raymond Street. There's a bunch of road work being done. Is that just sewer, or is that also water?
Brian, you would know us.
No, okay. If you don't know, that's fine. I thought maybe you knew off the top of your head.
No.
No, I don't think that's us.
Unfortunately, by the time you get up to Nancy and Brian and Jim and myself, we tend to lose. You lose that touch with the actual projects that are going on.
It's called delegating.
Yeah, we got
Fine,
we got to talk to
fine.
people about that.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
I'll
Thank you.
agree.
Thank you.
We're going to
You
increase
guys
the
take
road
care.
work, and then constituents are going to complain that all the roads are being ripped up and
They're all being torn up.
crazy. And yeah,
Well, I am experiencing that with the sidewalks right now, right, Steve?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody wants better sidewalks. Still, it's their sidewalk. Let's see
right.
here. We are. Could you read the next item for me?
All right. You guys take care.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Have a good one.
It's still not pulling my agenda up, so
We
if you don't
were
mind.
so we were discussing both items 2 and 3 at the same time.
Okay.
3 was consideration possible action on the request for the 20-year history of road repairs, including alleys from 2001 to 2021, with total expenditure, miles, distance completed, type, reconstruction versus resurface, and to denote if the projects were cooperative with county and/or state, held at the August 11th, 2021 Improvement Service Committee meeting.
Director, now that we do have this, you put a lot of work into it. Is this something that you could roll out every year to the committee when it's time to do our roads and say, hey, boom, here's where we're at, here's where we're at. We can clearly see, okay, we're going down or up or we're staying even. I think
Now that we've got
In the past.
now that we've got the bulk of this document to keep it updated on an annual basis, I think we could definitely do that.
Okay, I don't know what the committee thinks, but I love that kind of data and information just to see how we're doing and compared to the past and where we're going. When would be the best time to roll that out to us, Steve? When do you bring us our streets? That's usually January or?
Well, now, again, because we're taking the capital improvement program up, that's coming through finance now, and that's coming up in, at least what the target is to do that in the fall. I don't think it would be a problem. January might be a little preemptive because we don't have the contracts finalized at that point. But to bring it to you in March as an update item,
Yeah.
Update the table and show you what we did last year and what those costs are. By and large, I think most of these contracts will be closed out by March, so we could do that in March.
And then for next year, when you bring forward the proposed road projects, you could bring this forward again and say, hey, here's where we're proposing the next year be. Does that make sense? When you're showing the history, then you can have the line saying next year, here's kind of where we're moving to.
Sure.
Okay.
And
All
before we actually bring the report to you, if there are particulars that you'd like to see in the report, just get in touch with me and we can talk before we publish it.
Any questions on that committee or, I guess if you don't mind, I'll make a motion to bring this back for an update in March on next year's numbers and then to annually have this part of the proposed roadwork report.
I'll second it. Sounds like you're rolling down the right road there.
Putting the brakes to that right now.
You don't want to curb my humor, do you?
Oh. Any second to that, or did you second that?
I seconded it.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thanks. Are we informational now? No.
Would you like me to read it, Alderweary?
Yeah, if you could.
Last action item, last active item is 4, report of actions taken by Department of Public Works. A, granting licenses. 1, sidewalk builder. A, Chris Marto Concrete LLC. So I don't know if there's much to say there other than receive and place on file.
Correct.
Exactly.
Receive and place on file.
Motion by Alder Scannell,
Second,
second by Alder Gerlach. Any comments on that? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Now we're on to informational.
Informational. All right.
Director's report.
Okay, pretty short director's report. We've got a lot of staff out over the past week or two. We're continuing on storm cleanup. Matter of fact, last week we did no crack sealing, joint sealing, no mastic deployment at all. We took all street section employees and we had all hands on deck assisting the sanitation folks out doing brush collection. With the weather pattern that we've been stuck in over the past couple of weeks, I'm sure you've noticed it at your own house, but there's a lot of grass growing out there. So in addition to the routine grass cutting that we have on our own properties, last week we investigated 71 complaints of long grass. 50 were resolved by the owner, but that required us to go out and cut 21 properties. With the amount of debris that has been deposited due to the storm events that we've suffered, our street sweepers have been exceedingly busy, so we've completed, I think we're about 90% through round 19 for the year. That's also been, we've noticed some issues with investigating complaints of street ponding and flooding. So the utility section has been out putting some pretty long hours in, both with some maintenance issues on storm sewer and dealing with calls on flooding and backups and investigations on things of that nature. So staff has definitely been busy, and a lot of it's been weather driven over the past 2 weeks or so.
Thank you, Director, and I appreciate your help with the sidewalk callbacks.
Oh, not a problem.
Yeah, just to explain it, and I look forward to your revised informational guide or whatever you're working on, because I think that'll help a great deal to head off some of these questions.
Right.
Questions?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion to receive and place on file. Alder Scannell, second by Alder Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next meeting, September 15th.
All right. Let's do it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Alder Scannell,
Second.
second by Alder Burnett. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.